You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Hello, welcome to Paraversal Universe, where all paranormal perspectives apply. Join paranormal historian and ufologist Kevin Malik and psychic demonologist Jennifer Celsi-Malik as they navigate us through the different categories of the unknown and the unexplained, including ghosts and haunted places, cryptids and monsters, aliens and UFOs, theology and mythology, metaphysics, forbidden archaeology, urban legends and folklore, conspiracies, crimes, and corruption, with top analysis from the experts of these disciplines. If it's amazing, unusual, or mysterious, if it's bizarre, creepy, and fantastic, if it's unbelievable, paranormal, or supernatural, it's here on Paraversal Universe. Here are your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer.
Hello everyone. Whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, welcome to Paraversal Universe, brought to you by the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited and the Northwoods Paranormal Resource Center here in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik.
Hey, everybody.
We're coming to you live from our new home at WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We're also heard on our affiliate networks, WCET-FM, Columbia, South Carolina, and the Rift Radio Network out of Lakeside, Virginia. Welcome to you all. And hello to everyone in the chat room. We look forward to your questions and comments as always. We're so excited to be back with you all for another year of broadcasting. This is fantastic. We're officially in our 5th season, and we have a larger reach than ever. And we have a new producer, Kat Hobson, the voice for Fate Magazine Radio at WBHM, who we're good friends with, and thus super excited to be working with her as we go back several years in radio. And we'll be bringing new guests to the show, as well as guests from years past who we haven't had on for years, people we want to catch up with. And of course, we'll be bringing you new episodes of the Paralogian Report, at least once a month, news and analysis from the fringe recesses of the world, discussing the unknown and unexplained with Jennifer and myself, and fellow correspondents Jean Breida, Don Young, and Thomas McGuire. It's a very diverse and experienced panel whose analysis is well-rounded with informative perspectives. We love doing it, and it's very well received, so expect more of that as well. The archive for the show will be available also. Show archives from over the years can be found in various places on the web, including our archives-like page on Facebook called Paraversal Universe Show Archives, as well as our other upcoming promo page, Paraversal Universe Radio. So feel free to check them out. All right. We have an amazing season premiere interview lined up today with paranormal historian and author Jeff Belanger. But before we burst into that, as always, let's do our share banning shout-outs. Shout-outs go to those people who share our show banners this week. We appreciate it greatly and thank you kindly. So who do we have?
We have Paula Fenn, Katrina Cooper, Dennis Koch, Jason Bland, Jamie Demlos, JJ Paranormal, Walter Brooks, Thoughts of Christos, Howie Odell, The Rift, Kate Hobson, WBHM, Seraphine Hurley, Denise Pridemore, Elaine Dawes, Lawrence DeMisa, Jean Broida, Scott Mardis, Lake Champlain Mystery Animals, Lisa Reinaga, Sudan, and Lori Kreslaw.
A shout out to everybody in chat. It's good to see you guys there, the new faces and the regulars. Alrighty. Our guest for this broadcast, Jeff Belanger, is a respected member of the paranormal community. We met Jeff in Chicago at the last Chicago Ghost Conference we attended, and again more recently at the Paracon in the Northwoods in Boulder, Wisconsin, just a couple hours from here in Roylander, where we were both guest speakers at. He has an impressive bio, so let me grab that here. Jeff Belanger is an author, adventurer, and one of the most visible paranormal researchers today. He's an Emmy-nominated host, writer, and producer for the New England Legends series, which debuted on PBS in October of 2013, and the weekly New England Legends podcast. Since 1997, the journalist has interviewed thousands of eyewitnesses to paranormal occurrences. He's an ultimate insider and knows how to connect with people from all walks of life when it comes to the unexplained. Jeff is author of over a dozen books on the paranormal, published in 6 languages, including the bestsellers The World's Most Haunted Places, Weird Massachusetts, and Who's Haunting the White House. He's founder of GhostVillage.com, the web's most popular paranormal destination, according to Google, and a noted speaker and media personality. So, he's a host of the cable web talk show 30 Odd Minutes, which is available in over 9 million homes in the United States. Belanger's written for newspapers like the Boston Globe and USA Today, and has served as a writer and researcher on numerous television series, including Ghost Adventures, Paranormal Challenge, and Aftershocks on the Travel Channel. He's been a guest on hundreds of radio and television programs, including The List is So Long. Holy wow. So, Jeff, are you with us?
I'm with you.
Thank you, and welcome to Paraversal Universe.
Well, thanks for having me, Kevin and Jennifer. It's good to be here.
Well, we always ask our first-time guests to tell us how or why they ended up in their respective fields. In your case, that would be the paranormal and legend tripping, and the branch about which.
Yeah, so it wasn't on purpose. I grew up in an old New England town, and I had friends from a young age who said their houses were haunted, and so we would go looking for those ghosts at sleepovers and things like that. And I grew up in the town next to Ed and Lorraine Warren, so I knew them since I was 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I just kind of grew up steeped in this stuff. I went to school to be a writer, and I wrote for newspapers and magazines. And then around October, I just got hooked on ghost stories, writing haunted features. And I loved it. This was the early days of the web. And so I started a website with just some of my articles on the paranormal. And then I said, hey, tell me about your ghost experiences. And that little website of 6 pages grew into eventually 50,000 pages of content. And then I started writing books and working in television. And one day I woke up and I said, oh my God, this is my job now. So that's kind of how it happened. I didn't dream of being a paranormal researcher or writer or author or anything. I dreamt of just finding great stories. And this is the subject that just drew me in.
That's awesome. Whenever we do an interview, we research our guests pretty diligently. And one thing that struck me was the number of books you have. It was more than I realized. It said 14, but then it looked like there was even more than that. And I know you have like calendars and stuff too.
Yeah.
And we'll have plenty of time to discuss the books. That's something that we want to get into a little bit. And you have a couple shows, which are definitely worth watching. Where would you like to start, books or the shows?
You decide. It's up to you. I know about me, so
Good enough.
I mean, you know, I've been there.
Right. Awesome. Okay. Let's start with the podcasts.
Sure.
The first podcast that we seen you on was 30 Odd Minutes.
Yeah. So that was a video show that ran for a few years. We haven't done, it's been, gosh, almost 5 years now since we've done a show. And the idea was, you know, the podcasting and paranormal radio and paranormal internet radio was coming out and getting so big. I'm like, man, I want to do something different, which is pretty much the trend of my whole career. And I said, you know, so much of the paranormal is visual, like seeing stuff, photographs, videos, things like that. And so what happened was we had this cable access station, and I said, you know, nobody watches cable access, which is universally true, by the way. and it's not worth someone's time to go to a cable access station. But suddenly we had YouTube, and we had the means to get this show to not just one cable access station, but hundreds of them. And so just total grassroots, we built a spaceship and we started flying it around the universe and beaming our show to these cable access stations and to YouTube and putting it on Facebook. And suddenly we were reaching quite a few people, and it was really great. And we had guests on via Skype and sometimes in the studio and in our spaceship, and it was super fun. And I miss it. I miss it every day. But the magical components of producers and technology that lined up to make that happen, stars get misaligned over time, and that's what happened. But one day, I always say, like, one day we're going to fly that ship again. So I would never rule it out. It was too much fun.
I was going to ask you about that because it's been a while since.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've seen, I think the last one we saw was with like Linda Godfrey.
Oh, God, yeah, that was like 2014, which is now like 5 years ago. And it was, like I said, it was great. It was a great run. And I've got so many friends and colleagues I've made over the years. And also, I like the format of 30 minutes. And though we don't take ourselves seriously, we took the subject seriously. And so my thought was, through humor, sometimes we can break down barriers and get people to think about stuff that they may not think about otherwise. And I've always found, and I learned that during my live lectures, which I've been doing since like 2005 now. At first I wore a tie and everything, and I was very formal, and I tried to be all serious. And like our friends in MUFON, they always wear ties and jackets and stuff. It's great. And then I
still stuck with that, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm a MUFON investigator, so yeah.
You have to. You have to. They'll rip your card right away. They'll take it away. We can't be in MUFON without a tie. I get it. So that's how I started. But then I'm like, man, this just isn't me. Like, I goof around and stuff, and I don't know. And I started finding that through humor, you could actually break it down and be like, I know it sounds insane to imply that maybe there's like space aliens from another world here, or to imply that humans stick around after we die and haunt us and can affect the environment, or that monsters are walking the earth. If I joke about it, then your guard comes down, and then I can say, yeah, but consider this. And that is a brilliant moment in the life of an audience. You know what I mean? Where the guard's down, they're comfortable, they trust you, they don't think you're going to put on a tinfoil hat and tell them about, Xenon, the space god. And suddenly they receive information that they may not receive otherwise. And that's who I am. That's how I do it. And it's worked for me. That's all I can say. And I'm grateful to people that take it really academically and all that other stuff. But the longer I've been in the paranormal, the more I've come to appreciate and understand the parts of it that I like and the parts I dislike. And the parts I like and always have are the stories, these compelling stories that draw us in, that ring true to us, that sound like something that might possibly be true, and then forces us to ask big questions. I love that. I'm not a huge fan of, like sitting in the dark all night and hoping a meter will beep. Like I've done it plenty. But to me, the most exciting moment is to stand where the legend stood, to understand the history behind it, to understand how we got to here, and to talk to people that have seen and experienced these things, because that is like a really big and profound human connection.
And that can take us into the next show I want to talk about. First, that's really good advice, by the way, for speakers and whatnot.
Be yourself. I know,
yeah,
it's totally groundbreaking, right?
I've seen Brian Keno a couple years ago, and he didn't have a film strip with him, and I was kind of surprised that there were no pictures. And he said, I do better without it.
Yeah.
I do better without it, and I connect with the audience better, and I like what you're saying too about bringing the guard down a little bit, because you do. You'll always have a few skeptics in the audience. Sure. Came with their wife or came with their husband, or you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And they just won't. And you're right. If you can humor them a little bit and get them to laugh, and that does. I like that.
Yeah.
That.
Well, it's also just fits more with my personality. I mean, when you're going to be in front of an audience, or you're going to tell any kind of story, whatever, I just feel like the best you can do is to strip down naked, not literally, but just be like honest, truthful, and fully exposed to your audience. And that's where like magical things can happen. And I mean, I didn't invent that. Shoot, great performers do that. Bands do that. Actors do that on the stage. Politicians who are adept at, tapping into the energy of a crowd. That's just something that you learn over time, and the people that are really good at it can take an audience on a really amazing journey. And to me, that's the magic of it, is to just be like, hey, trust me, I'm going to take you somewhere. Like, we're going to have some laughs. I'm going to give you some things to think about, maybe even shed a few tears. Like, if we can ride that emotional roller coaster, to me, that's what it means to be human. And everything we're talking about in the paranormal, ironically, is tapping into the human experience in a really big way. Because when you talk about ghosts, what you're really asking is what happens after we die. And when you're talking about Bigfoot or cryptids or Loch Ness Monster or lake monsters, what you're asking is, do we know every creature that walks the earth with us? And when you talk about aliens, you're saying, are we alone in the universe? Those are the questions that humans have asked for tens of thousands of years, for as long as we've pondered our own existence in the universe and our place in it. And the paranormal lets us explore that. And that, to me, is something worth celebrating.
Well said. Well said. So you also host New England Legends. And you just mentioned that you are passionate about the legends and the legend tripping. And that's on PBS, correct?
Yeah, it's on PBS. It's on, not every station plays it. It's kind of up to them, each
Right.
individual station. But and it's also on Amazon Prime. So if you're a Prime member, you can watch it right now for free. You can just go ahead and look up New England Legends, and you can watch all the series that's up there so far.
Yeah, I like them. And I noticed with some of them too are shorter, where they're in accessible blocks, opposed to the longer interview. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, well, so the TV show we usually tell 2 or 3 stories in the span of a 26 minutes, whatever the PBS half hour is for broadcast, and the idea is to just kind of get inside and show a story and tell a story and talk to people that live it and experience it and breathe it. And the medium of television allows you to really show the audience, which is great, right? Like, books have its limitations, audio has its limitations. So does television too. You can't deliver a whole lot of information in television, but you can give a very visual experience and a visceral one where people can really see and meet the folks you're interviewing. And that's pretty cool. And that's why I'm grateful to work in all media, right? That I can work in television, and I can work in a live audience, and I can write books, and I can work in audio, because each has its advantages and disadvantages. And I think you let the story dictate which medium you use to tell it. If you listen to the story, you'll be okay. And when I say story or legend, please don't think that I mean it's made up or fake or false. I just mean that at some point, there is a legend attached to a thing, right? It becomes bigger than the thing itself. For example, Roswell, the UFO crash site. I'm pretty sure something weird happened there, right? I don't know what. I don't know for certain. And there's a lot of speculation, and I'm not a Roswell expert. I don't pretend to be. But something weird happened there, and now there is a legend around Roswell, a story that has evolved and gotten bigger, and we've all contributed to it. Like, well, I heard they collected bodies. I heard some are still alive today. I heard, right? And everybody's still contributing to that, because that's how folklore works, and it's always worked that way. But to me, what's great is I want to trace those lines, right? I want to trace every story back and see if I can find its origins. Because that's where the magic is. Because we learn about ourselves, we learn about our communities, we learn about where we come from. All that stuff it's pretty cool. So with the TV show, we're trying to show these places. Some of them are incredible historic sites or remote locations that you're probably not going to go to, and TV allows us to do that.
So do you have a team of, like, let's say, local individuals who always investigate the New England area stuff with you? And if so, do you have any shout outs?
Yes, I would like to give a shout out to my entire team that's been with me since day one. We have never, ever lost a member of our team since I started doing this back in 1997. if you can believe it. We have never lost a team member. No, I know. And we've also never gained a team member. It's just me.
That is awesome, by the way.
So quick story. I went to college and there were fraternities, as many colleges have. And I figured out very quickly that if I joined none of them, I was invited to all the parties. Whereas if I joined a specific fraternity, I would only be invited to one set of parties. And I've carried that lesson. It's all I've learned from college, by the way, if anyone wants to save a ton of money. Like that's my that was my big takeaway is if I don't affiliate, and I've tagged along with some wonderful groups over the years from all over the place who are like, hey, we've got really cool access to this building. You want to come with us? Yeah, I do. Thank you. Let's go. And sometimes it's much easier to get into a place alone. I can get in as a writer or as a producer with PBS or Travel Channel to places that would never open the door to, a bunch of people wearing black T-shirts saying, we're ghost hunters. Let us in after hours when it's closed. Which can be very intimidating for some people. So I've been very fortunate that I can kind of, of course, there's people I've worked with multiple times, but no formal team or name. It's just me.
Okay, everybody, it is time for our first commercial break. You are listening to Paraversal Universe Radio. We will be right back with our guest.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
I don't know if I'm going to.
Son of a...
Hey, son.
Mother...
Son, what are you doing?
Hey, Mom. I'm getting ready to listen to Periscope Uncensored.
By expanding your vocabulary.
Well, it is uncensored.
Son, the uncensored part of Periscope Uncensored is Jax and I getting down to brass tacks with all aspects of the paranormal. There's no fluff on our show.
So, no off-color commentary?
I didn't say that.
Awesome!
Son?
I just hit my head.
Oh boy, I'll go get you an ice pack. Catch Periscope Uncensored Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Commercial break, everyone. This is Paraversal Universe on WBHM Digital Broadcasting at WBHM-DB.com, as well as our affiliates WCET FM and The Rift. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik. I'd like to take a minute and thank everyone who makes Paraversal Universe possible, including graphics art director Lawrence D. Miza, theme music by Matt Stenz, announcer Frank Lee, our network producer and CEO at WBHM, Kat Hobson. You guys are all amazing. Shoutouts also to our affiliate network owners, Howie Odell at The Rift and Michael Vera at WCET FM. And of course to God in heaven, whose strength beyond strength is stronger than all, for granting us this wonderful show and opportunity here to be with all of you.
Amen.
And appreciation to the various platforms we're on, including iTunes, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Twitch, YouTube, Dailymotion, TalkStream Live, TuneIn, Blog Talk, and Paranormal Live Stream app, which is streamed and restreamed from various other outlets all over the world via the internet. This segment of Paraversal Universe is brought to you by the UFO Wisconsin Research Team, Wisconsin's alternative to MUFON. Okay, back to the show. We're talking to...
Just a quick question. Does the alternative to MUFON wear ties and shirts, or are these like the casual MUFON team?
This is certainly the more casual.
Nice. That's for me.
Yes.
Next time I'm in Wisconsin, I'm joining.
Yes. And what's nice about this team is the ufologists on there, most of them are trained ufologists through MUFON, through their certification.
Right.
Like the one I went through. And that's excellent investigation training. And even though I left the organization, I still have their MUFON Bible, if you will. It's got packed full of information. I learned so much. And so it's cool that we can come together as a team and work without the restrictions and the politics that MUFON.
Now we're getting to it, aren't we?
Yeah.
Oh, Kevin, what happened? Tell me. Come on, just tell me. No one's listening. Ooh, there's a story there.
There is a story there.
Of course there is. That's awesome. And now you know why I don't have a team.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, so let me get back to my...
Sorry.
No, that's
No,
okay.
it's okay.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, yeah, we were talking about your shows or the TV and stuff that you do.
Yeah.
And everything. And so let's see here. We have there are so many different shows that you've been on. I didn't even read it during the beginning because it's that long. It's that impressive.
You know what's funny about that? So to write a book can take like anywhere from like 3 or 4 months to a solid year. And that's a lot of hours in there. That's not just working on it and, dabbling. When you go on a television show, it can be like an hour of your life. And it's what everybody knows. Like, wow, that's so cool. I'm like, you know what's more impressive? Like writing a whole book. And I know there's a lot of authors out there. I'm not saying I'm special, but I just mean like, it's it's like someone saying, like to run a marathon, I mean, that's really hard to do. Anyone can sprint to the mailbox,
Right.
But it's like the ones that can do 26.2 miles. That's something. But yeah, so over the years, because I've put myself out there as someone that does this and written books and, the websites, sometimes they call and they want to talk to you about stuff. And I'm always happy to do it because I feel like better me to tell you about it than someone else. But also I feel that sometimes I always want to bring my credibility to the table. You know what I mean? Like, let me be the voice of reason if I can, if I don't get edited into something that I didn't say or whatever. But I'm grateful for those opportunities because we reach a wider audience with television.
It's interesting you bring that up because we've been contacted by different shows, and we have yet to I guess, jump in that ring. And part of the reason for that is because we've heard so many horror stories about things getting edited, spliced, taken out of context, where it could be great for somebody, but yet at the same time, it if it's not done right, it can make someone look like they're, not doing a good job or whatever the case may be,
Yeah, I guess. I think one thing that happens is that some people get in front of TV producers and the cameras and things, and they'll try to feed you a line or get you to say something that if you're not comfortable with it, you just say, hey, I'm not comfortable saying that, so let's move past it. And you can do that. That's okay. You are in charge of what you say. I know because I've also been on the producing end of television. And when people voice concerns like you just had, if they've got a story that I think is worth sharing, I would always say, you are in charge of what you say. If someone tries to push you in a direction you're not comfortable with, just don't say it. Don't, just say what story you have to tell. Be honest, be forthright, be open, and let the chips fall where they will. And you're going to get edited because all television is edited. And I think at the end of the day, better to put it out there and let someone contact you. You can always say, like, you only heard a tiny bit of the story. Let me tell you the rest. So my advice is always like, no, do it. Because if you have something to say, you should say it. And then, let it all work out the way it will after that.
Well, I do think it's going to happen. We got 10 years of NWPS research coming out in a book in a couple months here.
Congratulations. You've run a marathon.
Yes. Yeah. And so, I think once that, because you have stories in there that are organized and along with evidence and verifiable, the whole thing, of course we leave names out and certain things out for anonymity, but it's there. And I think that as much like I said, like we've been contacted before, and I think that once the book comes out, it may happen even more. So there's going to be a point where we say, we should do it, just like you said, because otherwise, you're holding yourself back in a sense. As long as you can, and we're honest, we're not going to say anything that we're we don't make stuff up. We're not going to fabricate anything. That goes against our nature. So as long as we speak the truth, no matter how they edit it, hopefully it will be okay. I mean, I know you can. I've seen people take stuff way out of context in editing jobs before, but at the same time, we're not political figures. I'm hoping nobody's out to get us. But
you're gonna ruin your chances of running for office. Don't worry. I've been to some of the same conferences you've been at. You have no chance of running for office, just like I don't. So It's all good.
We're already on the list.
Yeah, we're already. Yeah, sometimes I look and I go, you know what? I wouldn't vote for me. And I know me. It's cool. I think, first of all, I love this. I love these subjects. I love it. And I love talking about it and exploring it and having conversations about it. And whatever that may be, whether it's on television or on a radio show or just one-on-one at a person at a conference, I think it's really cool. When I first started doing this, I felt like after about a year or two, like I got this all figured out. I got it. Like I know every box to put an experience in, right? I figured everything out. I knew all the theories, everything. And and now that I've been doing this over 20 years, I realize like, oh my God, I know nothing. It's liberating, by the way. It's really liberating to realize like, I don't know. I know so much less now than I did then. But I've learned a lot more about myself, and I've learned a lot more about the people around me and the world around me. And that's really cool. So whereas in the early days, I was looking for conclusions, now I'm just looking for insight. And the journey is a lot more enjoyable for me at this point.
That's awesome.
So we have a question for you from the chat room.
Okay.
What are the weirdest legends that turned out to be true?
Ooh. Well, I think there's some truth in all of them, first of all. So, okay. So for example, this is weird. How about Bloody Mary? You know that one, right? You hold it. candle in front of the mirror and you say Bloody Mary 3 times. And that's been done at sleepovers for how many decades, right? 5, 6, 7, probably closing in on a century. I would bet people have been doing this. And the story behind Bloody Mary is that there was this beautiful girl named Mary Worth who was horribly disfigured in an accident. She was a very vain girl. And her parents figured she was so disfigured now, so ugly, that she wouldn't be able to stand the sight of her own reflection, so they hide all the mirrors in the house. And one day, Mary gets curious, and she goes looking, and she finds a mirror, and she looks at her reflection for the first time since the accident, and she's so appalled, she's so disgusted with herself, that she goes into the realm of the mirror and vows to seek revenge on anyone who ever summons her. And you summon her by holding a candle and saying Bloody Mary 3 times or 10 times or 13 times, whatever version of the story you heard. It doesn't really matter. And while the skeptic in me says, I don't believe that there's anybody in the realm of the mirror, living there waiting for us, I recognize that this speaks to some really big human issues like vanity, like dares in peer groups and things like that. And once in a while, I've gotten emails from often like teenage girls who said, oh my God, we did the Bloody Mary thing at a sleepover and everyone thought it was fake. But then my friend got scratched and now we're all freaking out that we've opened up something that we can't close. And that is the inherent power of the legend. While I don't believe that we can live in the realm of the mirror, I do believe that we can give something a great deal of power. And so it takes one scary story like that. And suddenly, here's my advice. If anyone listening, try it. If you're a skeptic, I want you to be alone, though, totally alone. Wherever you live, your house, your apartment, wherever you live, be home alone and get yourself a candle and go into the bathroom and make sure it's dark and light the candle and look in the mirror, look at your reflection and say, Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary. And just before you say it that 3rd time, just ask yourself, am I just a little bit nervous? Because I think you are. You don't ever have to admit it to me, to anybody. Just admit it to yourself. That the reality is, as silly as you think this is, there's one little primal piece of you inside that goes, uh-oh. What if I say it the 3rd time and I get attacked like some horror movie? And that's how powerful it is. We have the ability to create reality in front of us, and we do it every day. For example, if you reach into your wallet right now, and maybe you've got like a $1 bill and a $20 bill, if I were to hold up each one in front of you right now and say you can have either one, which would you like? I'm guessing you'd pick the 20, right? I mean, that's logic would say that. But the $20 bill is the same size as the $1 bill. It's the same paper. The design is even pretty similar. Same ink, right? Different presidents. George Washington, who, was probably the greatest president ever because he's the only one who didn't want the job. And then you've got Andrew Jackson on the 20, who was censured in Congress. I mean, this guy was a loose cannon, to say the least. Yet he's worth a 6-pack and a pizza. And George Washington won't even get you a cup of coffee anymore. And the reason for that is because of belief. That's it. Faith and belief. That's the only way that our paper money works. We believe that our government is backing up these banknotes and that the 20 is worth 20 times more than the 1. If that belief falters, it ceases to work. And that's happened. It's happened in human history. Ask the Confederates how their money's doing, right? After the Civil War, right. The Confederate money was useless. A loaf of bread could cost you like 1,000 Confederate dollars because people lost the faith in the government that was backing up those notes. And so it happens. So this is a complete system of faith, and that faith makes those things real. If you believe there is something dangerous in the mirror, if you believe that maybe you're being vain or you're tapping into something evil, primal, demonic, whatever label you want to use, suddenly you're afraid, and that fear is real. So while that is a goofy, silly legend that's been done at countless sleepovers over the decades, there's some reality to it because the story just doesn't go away.
And the other thing that strikes me, is just the invitation factor. The fact that you're putting something out there to the universe. And like you said, even skeptical people, I think, the average person believes that they have some kind of soul or spirit. Not everybody does, but some,
Sure.
And so you have the idea also of, it's like the Slender Man. It's an urban legend.
Yeah.
We know where it comes from, but yet if somebody wants to see one bad enough, who's to say that a demon or something won't come along and say, hey, I'll be your Slender Man.
Sure.
You want one that bad? I can do that for you.
Well, I think in that one instance of several years ago, what happened with the Slender Man incident up here in Wisconsin.
That's right.
They claim to have seen Slender Man.
Yeah, and girls.
And there were the two girls that
stabbed another girl. Many
almost,
times.
Right, almost to death, and she was able to recover from that.
Yeah, miraculously not to death.
Right.
And to me, that's such an impressive story because Slender Man was invented on the internet in a online forum. We can show you the post; it's still out there. Right. And from there, it's turned into like a meme. It's turned into a comic book. It's turned into a movie. It's turned into a horror figure, to the point where some girls at a sleepover thought if they stabbed their friend to death, they would honor this creature called Slender Man. So go ask that girl that was stabbed however many times if there's no such thing as Slender Man, right? That was very much her reality. So they whatever it was, they were manipulated by some force that was bigger than them, and they chose to label it Slender Man. So that's how powerful this stuff can become. It's not just like a simple story. Sometimes people kill and murder over these things, or take their own lives, or commit suicide, or do really profound, great things as well. I mean, there's legends and stories that move people to do wonderful things. So it's that power, that inherent power of this thing. I don't know how else to label it other than legend, but when I say legend, I really mean a living, breathing thing. A thing that can be born, that can move, can get passed from one person to another, that can go dormant, it can go to sleep, it can die. A legend dies when we stop talking about it altogether. That's the only way it goes away. And it sticks around for reasons that we may not fully understand. And one example I like to give for that is Santa Claus. I mean, if I say Santa Claus, you have a picture in your mind right now. I don't have to tell you anything else. You know what he looks like. You know where he lives. You know all kinds of things all about him. And that, if that's not real, then I mean, I don't know. I don't know how else to define reality other than I say something and you know what I'm talking about. That's really a story that, I mean, it serves us, right? His spirit possesses me every December. I freely welcome it. And then the story and legend lives on and grows and evolves and changes year after year. And that's the legend part of the phenomena. And Santa Claus, of course, is based on a real guy, a guy that lived in Myra, Turkey, Saint Nicholas, who was born wealthy. He was an orphan, and he gave all his money away, just to help others. It's all he wanted to do. And we still celebrate and venerate that all these centuries later, and that's pretty damn cool.
I always say the two most important words in paranormal are intent and belief.
Oh, sure, yeah.
What you perceive and what you put out there. Because even if something isn't paranormal, first, let's say an experience that someone thought was paranormal really wasn't, in one sense, it might as well be because they lived that and they experienced that and they believe it to be true. You know what I'm saying? So you can even have something that, again.
Well, I think it's reminiscent of a chopa or a thought form. When you have something that you give it so much energy.
Yeah. And them girls, by the way, they thought that if they killed their friend, that they would go live like. That would, if they killed somebody, sacrificed someone, Slender Man, then they can go live in his mansion in the woods.
Right. Yeah.
Just, crazy.
Yep.
All right. It's time for our next commercial break, everybody. You are listening to Paraversal Universe Radio. We will be right back with our guest.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back from our second break. This is Paraversal Universe on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Also heard on WCET FM in the Rift. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik. Before we get back to the show, we want to tell you all that we are on Twitter as the NWPS and MeWe as Paraversal Universe. Our like and group pages on Facebook are under various headings as well. Having said that, check out our Society's like page on Facebook, the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited, as well as Jennifer's like page, Jennifer Malik, Psychic Demonologist. There are 2 Facebook group pages on Facebook we want you to check out. The Ultimate Conspiracies group page is one, and Lake Monstrosities group page for Aquatic Mysteries and Wonders is another. Feel free to join them. Both. We'd love to see you there. And of course, the prospective networks we're on also have Facebook group pages. So go check them out as well. This segment is brought to you by the book Trail of the Sasquatch, A Shaman's Journey, by cryptozoologist and Iroquois shaman Don Young, who is also a member of the NWPS. Check out his Facebook group pages, Kindred Forest and Indigenous Americas. Any comments for this week's show can be addressed in the chat room. Let's get back to the show. We're talking to author of Weird Massachusetts and a whole bunch of other books, Jeff Belanger. Jeff, are you still with us?
I am in spirit.
All right. So, once again, we were discussing TV and whatnot, and you were involved with 3 different Zach Baggins shows, I guess we can call them.
Sure, yeah.
Paranormal Challenge, Aftershocks, and Ghost Adventures.
Yep.
The other 2 are no longer making new content, but Ghost Adventures still is.
Yeah. It's been 11 years. Well, we just hit our 10-year anniversary in, I believe, of the airing, I think was October. So we're moving into year 11, which is crazy. Crazy.
I can remember when they first came out.
Yeah.
Their first episode. We watched their first episode.
Yeah.
I mean, me and Jennifer weren't together yet. I watched it, but
you didn't read the credits, did you? Otherwise, you'd be like, "Wow, Jeff, I remember seeing your name in the credits. That's cool. You worked on it." No, it's fine.
Oh, but yeah, I mean, at first it was, just the idea of them 3 going out and doing that, in that way. Of course, we don't paranormal investigate as a society in the identical way.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah.
But it certainly has helped shows like Ghost Adventures and of course like Ghost Hunters and all them shows have certainly helped bring paranormal to the surface to the point where it's not taboo like it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's done that, and I get it. And Ghost Adventures has changed a lot over the last decade. It's not as confrontational as it used to be, but it's totally cool. Those guys investigate the way they do it. I do it differently when I'm doing it, and that's the beauty of it. There's no one way to do it. But yeah, that show has become like this kind of cultural phenomenon, and has lasted longer than any other. Run longer and is still going, and it's really it's pretty interesting to work on it and see it change and evolve. And one thing that I appreciated from the beginning is that again, when you work in television production, you start to know how the sausage is made. You know what I mean? Right. And when you watch some paranormal shows where some investigator will be like, I'm up here in the attic and I'm totally alone and I'm just really scared right now. And I'm like, really? You are? Because there's a camera guy on you. There's a sound guy on you. There's probably a producer up there with you. And, there's like at least 3 or 4 people up there in the attic with you, quote, alone. But our guys are the camera crew. They are the ones filming it. There's no one in there with them. So when they say they're alone, they really are alone. They're holding the camera. They set it up on a tripod. And I love that raw feel of it, because to me, that's more genuine than some of the paranormal shows that can be overproduced, where they're trying to just accomplish different things, and it's all good. They're all different and bring something different to the table. But that's one thing I always appreciated about Ghost Adventures, was just that kind of stripped down, raw experience that they offer.
Yes, and they've debuted equipment on the show.
Yeah, tons of it.
Yeah. Bill Chappell is a well-known name now. His technology.
Yeah, I've known Bill for years, and I've gotten to hang out with him and eat many a breakfast with him. When we do some of these events, sometimes he and I are the only ones up early, and we'll go get breakfast together. And some of the stuff he makes is just so mind-boggling and groundbreaking. And some of it, I'm like, Bill, I don't get it at all. And I've told him this to his face. This is no secret, and I'm not, it's just different strokes for different folks, right? And I guess you can look at it almost like musical instruments. You could be like, well, I play guitar and I play piano, but I would never play the bassoon. Well, some people play the bassoon, right? Like it's okay. Doesn't make it wrong just because you don't play it. So, some of the stuff that he's come up with is just mind-boggling. And I've gotten to use a lot of this stuff in different locations, and it starts working and going off, and you're looking at each other going, so it's not supposed to do that, is it? Nope. Okay, then. Now what?
Well, like SLS camera 2 was something else they debuted.
Yeah.
We use that. We have 2 SLS on tripod, and we have a handheld. And we use protocols with them. Mm-hmm. For instance, if something comes up, if we think it's a glitch, if there's any possibility, we'll wave our hand in front of the screen, or not the screen, the camera, to reset it. We've tried to make false positives. Our tech manager tried everything from bubbles to smoke to, you name it. It was tried.
Point it at a mirror. It gets all wonky.
Yeah, it does.
It hates mirrors. So it's like a vampire. Yeah, no, I have one too. And I think the tripod's the way to go with those, because when you're moving around with your hand, sometimes it'll grab like the corner of a door. And for people that don't know, the SLS cam, it takes the Microsoft Kinect camera, and that's the camera that people use on their Xbox, where the kids put themselves in the game, where it's literally reading your movements. And that's an open source piece of software with good reason. Microsoft wants you as a game developer to be able to use it and make more games for their platform. So it's no secret how that camera works and what it does. It's built to recognize human movement, something like 45,000 different movements, like your arm, your leg, the way you swing your hands and arms around and kick your legs. It's meant to look for that stuff. And what Bill did was kind of tweak it to look further into the infrared part of the spectrum, to look for human forms and human movement. So if you're using the SLS cam and you put it on a tripod and then you walk 6 feet in front of it, you will see yourself form into like this stick figure with little dots. That's the camera and software doing exactly what it's supposed to do, right? I found a person, I put it into the software, I've mapped it, and here it is. Sometimes it finds a human figure and you go, huh, there's no one out there right now. What the heck is that? And that's when things can start to get really interesting.
Yeah, and we've had over the years, we've had, I want to say probably like 3 or 4 times where what we garnered it blew us away, and we were able to get more than singular evidence or singular validation, I should say. Where when if something comes up on the screen, if we can get a thermal hit on it, if we can get an EVP,
Sure.
if we anything to back up what we're seeing, of course, triple validation is gold as far as historians are concerned, right? If you can triple validate something, it's usually solid. So
Right.
we always try to look for that. Of course,
Yeah.
getting triple validation in paranormal is none too easy.
No. But that's okay. And I think, for me, I love the experience. I love the experience of being in these places at night in the dark, alone, wandering around where history left a mark. And I've told Bill, I'm like, Bill, all your stuff is great. It's amazing. And I think you're a genius. However, the only thing I really want is a proton pack. So when you've got that ready for me, you give me a call, like the Ghostbusters proton pack that can shoot the Marshmallow Man and fire him up. Then we're talking.
Have you been to the Haunted Museum, Zach's Haunted Museum, yet?
No, I haven't, and we filmed several Ghost Adventure episodes there. So I did all the research on the building and its backstory, but I've yet to go. I haven't been in Vegas in a little while, so but I will definitely be hitting it the next time I'm in Vegas.
Yeah, that's
it's macabre. Some of the stuff he's collecting in there, from the Jack Kevorkian's suicide van and, some of the other stuff he's got in there. I'm like, man, oh man, you've brought in some really dark stuff. And while I don't know if I subscribe to the notion that an object can be haunted,
I just going to ask you that.
Yeah, that just doesn't make sense to me, that when I die, I'm going to be stuck in like, a doorknob or like a lamp or something. But I do very much understand how an object can take in the energy of the environment that it's in, and that we can pick up on it. There's a practice called psychometry that's as old as the gypsies, where you'd take a ring and someone would hold it and say, I picture a man with dark hair and brown eyes. And sometimes people are right. Sometimes people have picked up on that. And while that may sound like new age woo-woo, it's not so crazy. If you were to take a nail that you would bang into a wall, and you were to take a magnet, just a regular magnet off your fridge, and just rub that nail in the same direction with the magnet, what you're doing is you're lining up the electrons in the same pattern, and that nail now becomes a magnet itself and can pick up other metallic things. So the influence of the magnet has been transferred onto the nail. And so if you think of that nail as like the haunted object and the magnet is like a person, right? Suddenly you start to get how over time, if an object is around energy, positive energy, negative energy, whatever, right? Like just this thing that's continually acting on it, it'll almost like carry a memory of it. And then some of us who are more sensitive might be able to pick up on it. So that part makes sense to me. And once you're picking up on stuff, who knows what comes in after that?
It's like the folklore of the crystal ball. Well, we know crystals do have properties. Some crystals have properties about them. For instance, if you put ice cubes on a piece of quartz and you put an ice cube on a piece of granite, and if the temperature is the same, and the surface, is the same, the ice cube on the quartz will melt in half the time. And so we know something is going on. There's something going on with that because it's affecting the environment.
Sure.
When you think about the silicone and the memory it stores. And then you think, and we talk about like the crystal skulls, for example, how they're said to store all this memory. It's plausible. We just, and whether there's a way that someone will invent someday to be able to extract information from that, or like the cytometry, like you were saying. I've seen like Jennifer pick up a book and not know who the author is, and say the author is sick, and the person next to her says, "Do you know who the author is?" No, yeah, the author is sick right now. They got this thing, and she was just able to pick it up, just like that.
Yeah,
just a little piece of information.
Tuning in. Well, the amazing thing to me is how interconnected like all of humanity is. And if you think about the shirt you're wearing on your back right this second, do you think we're involved in getting your shirt on your back today? Like, I would argue it's no less than 1 million. Impossibly less than 1 million. It couldn't be, right? So there's the person that sold it to you in the store. There's the person that maybe put it on the shelf. There's the person that unloaded it off the truck. There's the person who drove the truck. There's the person who loaded it onto that truck. There's the person who designed it. There's the farmer who grew the cotton. There's the designer who thought up the design. There's the manufacturer. There's the person that built the machine that manufactured the shirt, the person that designed that, and so on. And like suddenly you are spider webbing all over the world, right? From farms maybe in like Malaysia to dyes that were culled from Africa to a manufacturing plant maybe in the US, maybe in China, whatever, and like so many human beings went into just putting your shirt on your back, and we're all connected just from your shirt. And we're all wearing clothes except me. Right, so we're all wearing some kind of clothes, and we all have that interconnectedness from all over, and that's really incredible. And to me, these stories remind us of that. These haunts, these stories, these legends. When you go into a haunted building, you're not just connecting with the building and with the people that live or work there right now. You're connecting with all the people that were there before and came and went and left some kind of mark. And that becomes a huge network of human beings from your own community or from foreign travelers who came there, all kinds of people. And that's just talking about one individual building. And so to me, it makes sense. I mean, we are animals after all. We can sense water. We can sense fear. We can sense all kinds of things because that's what makes us successful as a species. And so we have this ability to reach out and connect with each other. And to me, I don't see that much of a leap between connecting with a living human being and connecting with a person that was there even a century ago.
All right. So we're at the top of the hour.
And it's time for our next commercial break. You are listening to Paraversal Universe Radio, and we'll be right back with our guest.
NPR podcasts are now available on every platform. Check out all our shows at npr.org/podcasts. That's npr.org/podcasts.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. U.S. employers added more than 300,000 jobs last month, far outpacing what most forecasters had anticipated. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the latest snapshot from the Labor Department suggests the economy is off to a strong start in 2019.
U.S. employers have been expanding their payrolls for a record 100 months in a row. And despite low unemployment, there's no sign the job market is cooling off. On the contrary, White House economist Kevin Hassett says the pace of job gains has steadily increased for the last 3 months.
We're seeing signs of an accelerating economy right now, which is astonishing given that it's 100 months in.
The partial government shutdown did cause a temporary jump in the unemployment rate to a still low 4%. Average wages have grown over the last year by more than 3%. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
Taiwanese tech company Foxconn now says the factory it's building in Wisconsin will be a manufacturing plant after all. Marty Michelson from member station WWM in Milwaukee reports the latest development comes after President Trump spoke with Foxconn officials.
The news comes after a week of confusion about Foxconn's plans for Wisconsin, its first plant in the U.S. The Taiwanese electronics giant is building a huge facility near the Illinois border after signing a contract with the state to mostly manufacture LCD screens at the plant. Then earlier this week, Foxconn said it planned to shift the focus of the plant to mostly research and development jobs instead of manufacturing. It cited a changing global marketplace for the change in plans. Now, Foxconn says, after a personal conversation between President Trump and Foxconn CEO Terry Gou, it plans to proceed with the LCD screen manufacturing operation. For NPR News, I'm Marty Michelson in Milwaukee.
Today's announcement by President Trump, the U.S. is withdrawing from an intermediate-range nuclear forces treaty due to alleged Russian non-compliance, has set off a firestorm of reactions from Moscow. Russian politicians are blaming the U.S. for undermining global security by ending compliance with the deal. Each blames the other. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says the alliance has to assess the consequences of the breakdown.
This is a very serious issue, and we need to make sure that we respond as an alliance, all 29 allies, because all allies are involved and all allies are affected.
The U.S. says it will stop observing the treaty this weekend and withdraw within 6 months. Russia has condemned the U.S. move. Spending on construction edged up in November with a gain in home building, hoping to offset some weakness in the non-residential sector. Commerce Department reporting today construction spending rose 0.8% after a 0.1% rise the previous month. A mixed close at week's end on Wall Street. The Dow was up 64 points. The Nasdaq closed down 17 points today. You're listening to NPR. Iran is celebrating the 40th anniversary of its Islamic revolution that helped topple the U.S.-backed Shah, the event overturning 2,500 years of monarchical rule in that country, which brought hardline Shiite clerics to power there. The anniversary is marked each year on the day the Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini in 1979 returned to the country from France after 14 years of exile, to become the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran. China is greeting the Lunar New Year with celebrations and a historic travel rush this weekend. NPR's Rob Schmitz has more from Shanghai.
It's the time of year when people reunite with family near and far, and this year Chinese citizens will make an estimated 3 billion trips throughout the country. The Year of the Dog will make way for the Year of the Pig in the 12-year Chinese astrological cycle next Tuesday on New Year's Day. The holiday is the most important in the Chinese calendar, a time for people to return to their hometowns, to reunite with family and friends. On New Year's Eve, people will gather for reunion dinners, give each other hongbao or red packets of money, and light fireworks at midnight. That is, unless they live in Shanghai or Beijing, where fireworks are officially banned for safety reasons. Rob Schmitz, NPR News, Shanghai.
Skier Lindsey Vonn says after this month's World Championships in Sweden, she will hang up her poles, at least at the professional level. Vonn, who's the women's all-time leader in World Cup wins, saying she'd been planning on waiting to December to retire, but due to persistent pain in both knees, says she'll now exit the sport after this month's events. Vonn writing on Instagram, calling it an emotional 2 weeks, saying retiring is, quote, the hardest decision of my life. I'm Jack Spear, NPR News, in Washington.
Did you know you can ask Google Home to play NPR podcasts for you? It's easy. Just ask. Like, play the Fresh Air podcast. Use Google Home or Google Assistant to connect with your favorite shows anytime.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour.
And we're back. But you say that.
Are we back?
We are.
All righty. Hello, everyone. Welcome or welcome back. This is Paraversal Universe on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. Also heard on the Rift Radio Network out of Lakeside, Virginia, and WCET-FM and affiliates out of Columbia, South Carolina. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik, and we're coming to you from the frozen tundra of northern Wisconsin here at the Northwoods Paranormal Resource Center in Rylander. And we have paranormal historian Jeff Belanger with us today. I'm going to take 30 seconds before we get back to him and tell you you can always enjoy excellent fringe talk radio and awesome informative radio shows about the paranormal, supernatural, esoteric, and Fortean topics on our network and affiliate platform websites. Not only our show, but there's many good shows on these networks about different facets of the unknown and unexplained, much to listen to and much to enjoy. Stream live on TuneIn's, iTunes, and the Paranormal Livestream app, available from Android app and the iTunes Store. Okay, so this segment is brought to you by the Supernatural magazine, excuse me, where our articles can be found. So we have just a few minutes left with Jeff before he needs to leave, as we got a late start today. And so I think what we'll do is we should talk about your books a little bit. We were going to do the haunted list. But
Come on, let's do a few. Come on. They're probably in some of my books
we
anyway.
can do that.
Yeah, we have to. We totally have to.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Jennifer.
All righty. So how about a okay, let's start with Danvers.
Yeah, Danvers Asylum. That's Danvers, Massachusetts. It's just northwest of Boston. And it's like so many of these old asylums, the stories are so similar all across the country where, we used to treat people with mental disabilities pretty badly in this country. We would put them in jail. We would lock them up, would keep them out of sight. And these asylums, this guy named Kirkbride comes along and builds these wonderful sprawling campuses. Danvers was one of them. And over time, they get overcrowded and they get underfunded. And suddenly the conditions get bad. And treatments like electroshock therapy and ice water baths, the ice pick lobotomies, these kinds of things are cutting edge at the time, but seem barbaric today. And eventually it shut down, and they filmed a horror movie there called Session 9, which is actually a pretty good horror movie if you like the genre, and I do. It's not the most mainstream film, but I think you can find it out there somewhere. And while they were filming it, all kinds of strange things was happening inside these old buildings, and they realized this is a ghost movie about a really, truly haunted building. It's mostly been torn down and turned into condos. So I guess you can think about that if you want to go get a condo there at the old Danvers Asylum.
Isn't there a couple buildings standing yet and a cemetery still?
The cemetery is still there, and there's a couple buildings, but it's pretty much turned into very modern condos. There's nothing really left to see from the old days. Yeah, it's mostly condos.
And I gotta wonder if they're gonna ever experience anything out there.
Yeah, so I've given talks all around that area, and people have told me, like, oh, I've got a friend that's got a condo there. And I'm like, is it haunted? Have you had any activity, anything? And he's like, no, but I'll ask. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. That was like that with Linda Vista Hospital. They turned that into condos or assisted living or something.
They called it was an assisted living.
Yeah, and that's L.A. And that story, what I thought was incredible. So, okay, the urban legend about, the business traveler who meets some sultry vixen at the bar, and then suddenly his drink is roofied. Next thing you know, he wakes up in a bathtub full of ice and his kidney's missing. Right, like right. The organ has been harvested for the black market for someone who needs a kidney transplant or something, and so that sounds like to the point where if you go to the website of the organ donor website, they list there like this is an urban legend. It doesn't really happen, and you say that, but then you go, but there's places like Linda Vista, which was really, that was you didn't want to end up at Linda Vista if you could help it. And, stories about like Jane Does and John Does that were brought in and possibly had their organs harvested, maybe prematurely, for people that could actually use them in nearby hospitals. And these were people that nobody wanted, right? Like drug dealers and prostitutes and street people who no one had any care about that got in there for some life-threatening reason and then maybe didn't get the best of care because they were seen as more valuable for their parts than the whole. So those kind of stories came out of there, and that place was dark. But, I also understand real estate will go on. So assisted living, enjoy.
Right. Lizzie Borden, back in breakfast.
Yes, Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. And that's what us sick people here in Massachusetts raise our kids on, that nursery rhyme, And that was the trial of the century back in the 1890s. And Lizzie was acquitted mainly because the all-male jury figured there's no way a woman could do something like that. And all I could think of is like, that all-male jury must not have known too many women. Pretty much every woman I know could do that and would. It's this gruesome story of a double murder that is unsolved to this day, and no one was ever punished for it. And that haunts us. And when you walk in there today, and they have taken great pains to make it look exactly as it did back in the early 1890s, to the point where they've got crime scene photos on the wall and things like that. When you walk through that and you experience it, you're just like, oh my God, I'm back there. I'm there right now. Right where I'm standing, some man lost his life. He was bludgeoned to death with an axe, hatchet, something. And no one was ever punished for that. And that will continue to haunt us for as long as we look at the case files, look at the evidence, and say, man, it must have been Lizzie, wasn't it? Or at the very least, she knew about it or arranged it, something. And I think that lends itself to the haunted reputation that so many people experience today. I've been in there. One of the few times I've actually had a ghostly experience, I was in there. This was at least, good God, 15 years ago, something like that, 14 years ago. And they were shut down for a week for some minor renovations. And we were in there doing a live radio show broadcast from like 10 to midnight. And it was just 4 of us in the whole building. And we were down in the basement at like 11 o'clock at night. And suddenly we hear these 2 scampering footsteps run from the side door into the kitchen, right above our heads, right at the top of the stairs. And we all look at each other like, oh no, like kids from Fall River just broke in. We got to get up there. And we were up those stairs in 5-6 seconds, racing up there, ready to grab those kids, manhandle them out, call the police, whatever we had to do, because the owner was kind enough to let us be in there, for the night. It was our responsibility. We didn't want anything bad to happen. And we get up there and we look around and there's nobody there. And you go to the door and you check the door and you're like, yeah, it's locked like we left it. And we all looked at each other saying, well, we all heard the same thing. We all reacted the same way. Something just ran on those stairs and we could never figure out what it was. It's a crazy, great place.
It's awesome. And I'm glad you got that in there because we were going to ask you to share a paranormal experience.
There you go. That for me, it's a lot of times it's not so. I'm the first one. When something weird happens, I want to figure it out. I want to debunk it. That's my first instinct every time. Like a door slams. Well, okay, is there wind moving through the building? Is there something that, you open a door on one side, it creates a vacuum that pulls the door shut on the other, things like that. And I usually can figure it out. But once in a while, I can't. And those are the moments you live for. I've been in the Lizzie Borden house so many times now, and I've never heard those footsteps before or since that happened. And I to this day, I couldn't tell you what that was.
So we got 4 minutes until the top of the hour. Right. So let's get in one more place, and then we can let you go. Is there any place on there?
Yeah, actually, one of my favorite places that I've read about, the Bridgewater Triangle.
Oh my God! In 4 minutes. So,
if you can cap it in 4 minutes.
So the Bridgewater Triangle is this region that was coined by Lauren Coleman back in 1980. It's this like 230 square mile. Borden house, and you've got this unresolved stuff. You've got this, this crime that was never solved. To me, I think the Bridgewater Triangle's underlying reason is that King Philip's War, that horrific battle that took so many lives that we don't talk about. It's like it's still demanding to be remembered. And of course, it's also a very heavily populated area between Providence and Boston. There's military bases not too far from there on Cape Cod and so on. A lot of sea traffic. It's got so much human activity. I guess it's no wonder that there would also be UFO activity as well. So it's kind of all there. How'd I do in like 4 minutes?
Awesome. Great. And we still have a minute. So wow. You can share, please share your link, how people can find you. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us.
Yeah. Thank you for being such a wonderful guest. Everybody, we really enjoyed having you on, and so did everybody in chat.
Oh, thanks everybody in the chat room, and thank you, Kevin and Jennifer. Yeah, so I'm on Twitter and Facebook, and you can find me there. It's my website's jeffbelanger.com, and my podcast, New England Legends, that's free on wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify, whatever you listen to. And I basically tell a new story every single week. So we do it every Thursday at noon, and we've been doing it for 76 weeks in a row. But who's counting? So, Yeah, but anyway, yeah, no, and thank you for everyone that's been supporting me, for reading my books or watching Ghost Adventures or whatever it is. I really do appreciate it. I'm blessed to be able to do this.
All righty. Jeff Belanger, everyone. And
with that, it is time for our next commercial break. You are listening to Paraversal Universe Radio, and we will be right back.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. The best in paranormal talk radio.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Son of a...
Hey, son.
Mother...
Son? What are you doing?
Hey, Mom. I'm getting ready to listen to Periscope Uncensored.
By expanding your vocabulary.
Well, it is uncensored.
Son, the uncensored part of Periscope Uncensored is Jax and I getting down to brass tacks with all aspects of the paranormal. There's no fluff on our show.
So, no off-color commentary?
I didn't say that.
Awesome! What?
Son?
I just hit my head.
Oh boy. I'll go get you an ice pack. Catch Periscope Uncensored Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
hello, everyone. Welcome back from our commercial break. This is Paraversal Universe on WBHM Digital Broadcasting in Birmingham, Alabama. Also heard on WCET-FM and the Rift Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik. And we were just speaking with paralogian Jeff Belanger. Before we continue with the show, and by the way, Jeff has left the show. He had to leave. So, but before we get back to the show, let's take a quick moment and mention our AM, FM affiliates on terrestrial radio. Through and including WCET 101.7 FM, which is Columbia, South Carolina, Columbia Talk, High Point Radio, 100.5 FM and 1620 AM out of New Jersey, which broadcasts in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, and KOY 1230 AM in Phoenix, Arizona. So hello to all of those terrestrial WCET FM affiliate stations. Thank you so much for tuning in and spending your time with us here at Paraversal Universe. This segment is brought to you by the Parasociology like page on Facebook. Parasociology is the study of how paranormal manifestations and experiences can affect a family group or collective. Parasociology also examines how spirituality is practiced in different cultures. So check that out and leave a like for future content. All right. So we're back with the show. We have about 35 minutes yet before the show is done. And so we're going to bring our producer, Kat Hobson, out with us now and introduce you to her. And what we're going to do is read a couple articles. Kat, you there?
I am there. Hello.
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 So we have, first of all, it's really cool. Thank you so much for getting us back on and being our producer and all that. And for those who remember Paraversal Universe from the early days, we started on the same network that Kat got her start on.
True.
And yeah, and so we're basically, I guess you would call it, we're from the same, I don't know if you'd call it, not graduating class, but from the same class.
From the same class.
Yes. So, yeah, so it's funny how things come full circle.
And kind of fun.
Yeah. So the first article we have you can find these in Supernatural Magazine. This one is called Alleviating Fear Through Knowledge. There's no paranormal team, society, or organization that can claim to cure a haunting or paranormal activity every time it's investigated. In fact, there are quite a few paranormal reports which are investigated by paranormal teams, yet never get diagnosed properly or resolved in a way which provides relief for the individual or family unit. This can be caused by anything from ignorance to a simple lack of investigative resources, as well as a host of other factors. In many cases, it's not intentional. In some cases, the goals are for a particular investigation team are not to treat the issue, but only to identify and document it, which in itself is not inherently evil. What is to be done with the evidence can become a moral issue because in those cases, people are sometimes more interested in garnering evidence for paranormal collection of paranormal documentation than they are in actually helping the family cope or deal with the present activity, should it be properly investigated, by using the paranormal proof to find credible closers to deal with the activity instead of displaying it all over social media. Whether or not the issue can be resolved through spiritual intervention of some type, one goal is to address the fear factor whenever present. Humans fear what they don't understand. The more information one can receive about what may be transpiring, the less uncertain they feel about the situation at hand. Then, in turn, they are better able to deal with the paranormal activity if or when it arises. We have had cases where we've been able to see this transpire over time. We have clients who still may experience paranormal activity from time to time, yet their attitude and demeanor has changed from one of fear and anxiety to one of, say, how a parent may treat a kid, for example, which is to say without fear. As we work through them, the various stages of the investigation through to the end, we answered as many questions as we asked, which was quite a bit many. Not only do we answer questions, but we provide information sources they can access, as well as a general emotional support for whatever it is in which they are experiencing. Do not underestimate this as an effective strengthening tool for the client's emotional state, which, by the way, resonates through the entire family. And there's also psychological, metaphysical, and theological based meditations that one can employ to remain not only calm, but strong, while they're also enjoying protection from and a connection to one's God. Smudging and burning incense while saying greater good prayers or affirmations is another way for a client to take a positive approach while feeling truly effective, while being truly effective. Praying, meditating, and smudging all incense increases all vibrational frequencies. Higher vibrational frequencies are positive, and lower vibrational frequencies are negative. Don't be afraid to educate the client on what you are doing and why, be it a psychological, metaphysical, historical, theological, or scientific principles which are applying during the course of the investigation. Again, usually the more they know, the better off they are. There are always exceptions to any rule, but those are usually few and far between. Exceptions like what? Remember the golden rule of paranormal investigating. The team or group must never make a situation worse in any way. So if you come across something that could scare the heck out of you, or I should say scare the heck out of your client, for example, make sure the group discusses the best way to relay the information to the client so that you're not just dropping bombs on your client without considering the ramifications first. Establishing a relationship with a psychologist or psychotherapist who can address post-traumatic stress disorder is definitely a huge asset for any paranormal team, because some clients have developed PTSD from both paranormal and non-paranormal events, which should be worked on if applicable. Our society has a resident psychotherapist who understands the paranormal events can and do happen, so there's no judgment factor many people feel from therapists in general. Plus, a psychologist or psychotherapist can also identify other mental stressors or disorders which may be present. This is always a perspective worth noting, coming from the right person or a collective body. If that luxury applied academics is not present. Unfortunately, most teams don't have a mental health professional, not because they don't want that resource, but because it's simply unavailable. This isn't absolutely necessary to help a family, however. Some folks are just more open or sensitive to the vibrations or manifestations that others don't seem to pick up on. So even if the paranormal activity can be alleviated in their environment, they may experience activity at other locations or attract new attention while out and about. For these clients, learning how to deal with this ability is imperative. They already know they have paranormal activity. They ultimately need to learn how to deal with it on their own in case everyone they ask can't prevent any future interactions. The other thing we encourage is for the clients to actively make efforts to plug into God and the greater good on a regular basis and to refrain from sinning. This is referred to as strengthening, as maintaining or wearing your spiritual armor. That way, when the clients call on God, they feel the connection much stronger, which in turn distracts evil from feeding on the fear, because the fear is replaced with love, which is a fantastic high vibration like no other. So if the crossovers, liberations, cleansings, smudgings, or deliverances didn't work, which at times does happen, then at least you have provided some light of certainty, which penetrated the darkness of unknowing that they first approached you with, that darkness which was derived from fear and uncertainty. So they can also decide whether they should stay or go, making a much more informed decision at that point. Sometimes the wisest decision, assuming all other avenues has been assessed and tried, even repeatedly. Each case is unique. Putting some energy into alleviating the fear factor is one thing which can go a long way. And it's wonderful to see that when that end is achieved. So don't be averse to setting up some protocols within your team to promote that end. It's an awesome gift to alleviate someone else's fear. If a little education can go a long way, think how much more a lot can do. The answer to that are wonders. Peace and blessings. So that was an article that Jennifer and I wrote concerning dealing with fear, just the fear factor. Because, like as the article said, no team can guarantee that they could come in and alleviate and stop a haunting. I honestly, so that being the case, you still want to be able to help, if that's going to be the case. And the best way you could do that is to help alleviate that fear factor so they can at least perceive it differently. I guess, Kat or Jennifer, do you guys have any thoughts that you'd like to add?
I would like to say that one of the things that I find alarming as an investigator going into a home is if they have had someone else in ahead of them or ahead of us and they've been told that there is a demon.
Right.
Because there's nothing that we can say when we get in there to convince them otherwise, because the fear and the idea has already been planted. It's it's very difficult to be able to go further. And, you know, you can smudge, you can sage, I like to use frankincense and myrrh as a combination if I feel that there's a particularly strong spirit involved.
We do too.
It's just, it soothes and calms everything. And I feel that it's a much stronger, much stronger smudge for that application. But, you know, it's so difficult to cope with somebody who has had another person say, oh no, this is most definitely a demon, and there's really nothing that we can help you with unless you get a demonologist. Perhaps one of the local priests can help you. And I'm just like, it's not demonic. This is not a demon. This is a human spirit. And they'll never hear anything of it. And I've had to reach out to clergy to come in and say, you know, we're going to go ahead and bless your home. And most people are okay with the priest's blessing. But I've had people that you just could not talk out of the fact that they need a full-blown, exorcism. And how would y'all deal with that? What do y'all do in those situations when that fear is uncontrollable?
We do get that. And we'll have people contact us.
Because Jennifer's a demonologist, though, too.
Oh, yeah. And Jennifer gets stuff on a daily basis that she addresses. And it's a lot of these people will contact and say, I have a demon. And a lot of times they're not saying the things that we look for in a demonic haunting. So dealing with a client, if we have a situation where we're not seeing the things on the checklist we need to see to determine it to be within the 10% of most violent or hauntings, because that's really the best. That's the way most people assess demonic hauntings, is by the level of violence and other things too. But if someone calls us and they say they have a demon terrorizing them, but they're only telling us the things that we would hear in a human haunting. You know, I hear the door handles rattling, I can hear somebody walking. I can hear people talking, but I can't make out what they're saying. Little things that we hear on the average haunting. Then we have to explain to them and say, well, here's the criteria that we go by. This is the criteria that Jennifer's looking at to determine if you have a demonic haunt or not. And if it's not there, it's okay to be relieved that it's not as bad as other. Because it can always get worse. Hopefully, you can undo some of the damage that's been done by whoever suggested that they had, and that doesn't mean that they're not susceptible to demons or demonic. Especially if they're convinced of it, and especially, let's say, if they're not practicing, if they don't have a moral base.
Yes.
Okay? So, them kind of things can invite attention.
Right.
We'll just say.
Well, there's so many things that factor into this too. You have to go look at when you talk to them. And one of the first things I always ask them, as far as the invitation aspect of it goes, when did you notice stuff going on?
Right.
Did you or somebody, for instance, or for example, use a Ouija board or do some kind of an occult ritual, or did something to catch that particular demonic entity's attention? Because a lot of times, and maybe they don't even realize it, that they have maybe done something that triggered this activity. And it's like,
I do know. I agree.
And that was like, kind of saying, at the same time, we have a checklist that we go by. We will literally sit there. I get contact from people on a daily basis. And the first 2 lines I hear from them are, help me, I have a demon. So then the both of us will sit there and I'll ask questions. I'll start and say, you know, what is your denomination? What faith are you? Do you have a religion? You know, I'll cover the aspect of, are there any drugs or any alcohol abuse in the home? Are there any family members that may have mental health issues? And then we'll go from there. You know, we'll ask questions of like, okay, well, tell me your activity, like, you know, a list that Kevin just said as far as the activity, and I'll be like, okay, this is what we are covering on our end from a demonic checklist, because you do get that with demonic activity, but like Kevin said, it's way more nastier and it's way more violent. And if we can't help people that are not in our area through networking, we'll contact others and provide them with resources and articles and research for them to do. We'll recommend prayers. We'll recommend that they have their homes blessed and each other blessed and their vehicles blessed. We'll recommend, you know, burning the frankincense and myrrh, playing prayers around the house, like the Rosary, the Lord's Prayer, St. Michael prayer. We'll even take the steps to send them out St. Benedict and St. Michael medals. And we'll constantly keep in contact with them throughout the whole entire process. This way they know that they're not alone and that we don't think they're crazy and that we want to help them.
At least until they can find help.
At least until they can find help.
Right.
And that's something that, you know, when we come back from our next break, and we take a break in a couple minutes, when we come back, the other article we could read is on finding a good and respectable demonologist. Not all, and that's the thing, they say someone who's truly possessed will not seek out an exorcist. And like we said, like the 10% of the most violent and disturbing cases we consider demonic. Of them, probably 13 of the 15, or let's say 8 of the 10% is home infestation cases, where it hasn't turned into a full-blown possession yet. Yeah. But the other 2% is the full-blown possession, and it's so rare. It's so very rare. You know, we do home deliverances. We do not do personal deliverances or personal exorcisms.
Right. And another thing that I contacted, you know, that we help these people out when we speak, is that I tell them, if you're trying to get responses to make sure it's demonic, don't provoke it. Don't give it any energy. Just don't.
Exactly. You know, you don't want to establish a means of a line of communication. It's kind of like, don't feed the dragon.
Right, exactly. Stop poking the bear with the stick.
Yes, and that's one of the problems that I have, especially with younger clients who get these things because they've watched a program or something where it looks like it's cool and let's just see what we can find. And then they find a lot more than they bargained for. And they take it home with them because it's attached to them. And when stuff starts happening at the house, they're wigging out. It's frightening.
Yeah, it is. And with that, we are going to take our next commercial break. You are listening to Paraversal Universe Radio, and we will be right back.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Paraversal Universe on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, WCET-FM in the Rift. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malik, and we are so glad you are with us, and it's nice to be back.
Yes, it is.
We want to tell everyone that pretty soon we're going to be offering a T-shirt for the of the logo and painting for Lake Monstrosities for purchase. The price has yet to be determined, but it won't be more than $25 per shirt because we won't let it go higher than that. And it may be cheaper. It's white and black and top quality cotton. Now, half the proceeds for this will go to charity. And the specific cause that helps 7-year-old Daniel DeMisa, who suffers from Dravet syndrome and seizures on a regular basis. The other half of the proceeds will go to making more shirts to continue the endeavor. This is the son of our graphic art director, Lawrence DeMisa, the same little boy who painted our logo picture for the Lake Monstrosities that we used for this very day. And this is the most excellent way to give back to the DeMisa family for all the artwork and friendship that they provide every week for the show, and of course for Lake Monstrosities, the largest social media group outlet dedicated to aquatic mysteries and wonders of all kinds. So we'll keep you posted as it develops. Jen and myself and a couple others already have a shirt, and their quality, their choice, the colors stand out and it washes well and all that. So we're totally happy with them.
And the designs are nothing short of awesome.
Yes, the artwork is great. It's awesome. And to think that this came from a little boy is even more amazing. So this segment is brought to you by the 5-star Reader's Choice Award winning epic fantasy trilogy Helm by Robert L. Malik. And back to the show. This is Paraversal Universe, and we have Kat Hobson right now in the studio with us, and we went off the air discussing the fear factor in paranormal, and that took us into demonology and demons and people thinking they have demons. Not to say that usually it's a mistaken identity thing, but not to say that it can't happen every so often where a true demonic case, comes to us or comes to Kat or other paranormal teams out there. So, what I'm going to do here, and I was just grabbing this when we came back on break. It's right here. And this article, which we're going to read, it's called Looking for a Demonologist Concerning Information, Help, Experience. And we wrote this, I want to say, maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah, 6 months ago.
And this has turned out to be our most shared article to date. For those people out there who truly suspect a location is demonically infested, an individual or family is cursed, or someone is being oppressed or possessed by malicious or diabolical forces, and want to talk to someone who studies and understands these ramifications and principles that apply concerning these things, finding the right person who can help can be like finding a needle in a haystack, especially if one doesn't know what to look for in a credible and respectful professional, in this case, a demonologist. So let's define exactly what a demonologist is, some of the variations thereof, and the necessary simple research one can do to attempt to find the right individual to help or point you in the proper direction. Basically put, a demonologist is someone who studies and understands the workings and intentions of demonic principalities and activity. They are usually well versed in the paranormal phenomenon as well. Because of differences in religious beliefs and practices, there are many variations thereof. First of all, we should note that the title demonologist is not an academic one, per se, as one cannot get a degree or doctorate in demonology from an accredited college. No one can quantify or reproduce consistent results concerning demonology in a scientific setting, so it is technically considered a pseudoscience. However, this doesn't mean that there aren't very dedicated or educated demonologists out there. Some theologians, for example, are versed in this unique field of study. There are also certification courses and mentorships offered by those qualified or educated individuals who would teach others. Some are quite respectable, and we personally have no issue honoring. However, if the certification one claims doesn't involve a respectable time period of education and study, or a test at the end of the course, and is not taught by someone who is established and or credible, then we personally choose not to honor that particular certification. That is because some certifications can be bought without any training or education. So don't be afraid to ask a demonologist how they came about their title and how they came to be educated and experienced, or certified if they are. Now, certification is not necessary to be a good demonologist. Neither is a theology degree. But when present, however, they can both hold weight. But we should state that there are some amazing demonologists out there who aren't theologians, and there are amazing theologians out there who aren't demonologists. Because demonology is practiced by many different denominations and is not regulated by any public academic institutions, there will be a very wide range of diversity. Therefore, it is all the more important to look closely at the individual who you are inquiring about. Although demonologists can also be deliverance ministers or exorcists, this is not always the case. Some demonologists just diagnose hauntings to determine if they are diabolical or not, then find a holy person, deliverance minister, or exorcist in the area of the oppressed to help if they deem the situation warrants it. Although there are many different kinds of demonologists, they can be divided into two simple categories: the one who appease demons and the one who oppose demons. We personally believe the best way to alleviate any demonic issue is to oppose the demonic instead of the appeasement thereof. So let's look at what one should look for to make the distinction between the two. Let's start with the latter. Appeasement. Appeasement of demonic entities can involve anything from using different kinds of magic and rituals to straight up devil worship, and anything in between. Thus, open sin will be evident for those who practice appeasement. Hence, those will be signs to look for when one looks into a possible candidate. Recently, we needed to do a social media check on a potential demonologist regarding a matter. There are times we need to help someone find a demonologist close to their own location. In this case, the first post with photos we came across were of this particular demonologist playing a poker game in a strip bar with a stripper dancing around a pole right in front of the collective card players. Other posts also promoted sinful behavior, which is akin to appeasing one's demons, hence is appeasing two demons. It was clear to us that this was not the right individual for the presented challenge. The same principle of characters holds true with those who oppose the demonic. There should be a general overall absence of sinful material present, replaced positive intentions. Love for creation, praise for God, and the greater good. Things of this nature. So we suggest a simple background check and social media search of the individual to determine their personality and character before trusting them with your well-being. Any demonologist who opposes demonic forces is experienced in these matters knows the importance of wearing the spiritual armor of God, despite whatever greater good denomination they belong to. This involves practices like daily prayer, going to church, striving for grace, charity work, etc. This is important for the demonologist to stay protected, as well as to keep peace of mind and a healthy disposition. It will be evident in their words and deeds, and should reflect such wherever one decides to look. If you inquire about their spiritual practices and they have nothing to relay back to you, avert course. If a demonologist is truly needed, then the situation may very well require spiritual warfare. Spiritual grace is thus important. And because demonology is not regulated, you will run into all types. So if you notice anything you're not comfortable with and act in accordance with good common sense, that may be likely prevent an overall situation from becoming worse down the road. But what about religious preference and denomination? We recommend your best way is to try to find a demonologist who is either the same religious denomination as the afflicted, or at a minimum, regardless if networking is required, has a respect for one's spiritual belief system. However, one denomination can help someone from another as long as all parties are okay with this premise. Technically, denomination is just a label created by man to define practices of worship. This is a rift God can easily traverse. Mm-hmm. Also, don't be afraid to ask for references. Many demonologists work with or are affiliated with an organization or can produce the name of individuals who are willing to come forward to exert their faith and belief in the prospective demonologist. Some write books or articles which can be referenced as well. These references will attest to their faith, dedication, and understanding. However, without any kind of references, solid references, one may want to consider continuing the search until they find someone who fits the bill and can really help them out. A good demonologist should be plenty able to provide general information on the states of demonic haunting, as well as suggest on how to improve the situation for the individual or environment. There's spiritual counseling involved in the demonologist's work, so you want to find someone you're comfortable with communicating with, because without that, you are truly missing out on the full benefits of having a good demonologist on your side. Remember that second opinions also never hurt, especially if you aren't comfortable with the answers you were given questions you posed. A good demonologist should be able to give you plenty to work with. A shady demonologist should give you plenty to be wary of. It's important that we note, aside from demonologists who believe that all paranormal activity is demonic, most paralogians and demonologists believe that about 10 to 15% of hauntings are severe enough to be demonic in nature. Our own research over the past decade basically concurs. Either way, the point is that the majority of paranormal professionals believe that demonic hauntings are relatively low, and true possession is even lower yet. A decent demonologist will also want to rule out all other possibilities before assuming anyone is afflicted with demonic activity. So they will look at all other things which may simulate such experiences. Know that this is standard. Many claims of paranormal phenomenon can come in the way of intelligent ghosts, residual imprints, psychic kinetic activity, psychological hallucinations, earth energies, accidental misidentification, etc., which can also be simulated caused by demonic entities. But of those 10 to 15% that are considered demonic, the most severe of all paranormal situations, only 1 to 2% are fully blown possession cases. The rest of those are home infestations and depression situations, which, although aren't quite serious as full-blown possession, are still serious enough to treat and evaluate. If you truly feel you need, or someone you know needs to find help with a potential demonic situation, don't be discouraged if you meet resistance along the way. Odds are you will. Half of the demonologists out there won't likely be right for you, and half of the holy people out there don't want to, aren't equipped to deal with the paranormal issues. So in closing, it's like anything else. There are good ones out there, and there are definitely many people to be wary of in this field. So do your research and look for the following: experience, references, good moral structure, good rapport for communication's sake, networking abilities if applicable, and absolute dedication to their higher power, God, and the greater good. Always trust your instincts. That will be a good place to start. And this is a good place to end the show. So, we would like to thank everybody for tuning into Paraversal Universe this week. We would like to thank our guest earlier, paranormal historian Jeff Belanger, for being such a wonderful guest. Next week, we'll be doing the first Paralogian Report, news and analysis on Paraversal Universe. So check that out. Feel free to support any of the networks mentioned here tonight, as well as the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited, 501c3 nonprofit organization, by donating. Contact Jennifer and myself for ways how. It's folks like you who ensure that these excellent networks will be here tomorrow. To the believer, the evidence is overwhelming.
And to the skeptic, there will never be enough.
Thank you. Good night. God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and we'll see you here next time.
Good night, everyone.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.